This is the video for Chapter 5 in your Blue Gateways textbook. This is video 1 of 3. Chapter 5, Congress, our legislative branch. If you look in the middle of the page there, you will see the standards being covered. Standards 3.3, 3.8, and 3.9. All these standards focus around knowing the difference between the three branches of government and where they get those powers from. The main focus for this chapter is the legislative branch. At the bottom, you'll see 3 long lists of words. Those are the vocab terms you should know by the end of this chapter. The vocab terms we are going to focus on are in your packet. Please have a pen, pencil, or highlighter ready, and be ready to follow along and mark the text. Remember, marking the text helps you when completing the guided notes, because usually, during the video, I point out the key information that'll end up being the answers for the guided note questions. This reading will start on page 87. The delegates to the Constitutional Convention vigorously debated which powers should be awarded to the new federal government. Following the suggestions of Baron de Montesquieu, they separated the new government's power among 3 branches. Remember, Montesquieu came up with the idea of the 3 branches. So, they took his ideas and used them when making this government. They hoped that each branch would act as a watchdog, making sure the other 2 branches did not grow too powerful or oppressive. Congress was viewed at the time as the most powerful branch of government. The division of Congress into 2 houses was seen as another way to curb its power. For a bill, which is a proposed law, underline or highlight that, bill, a proposed law, to become a law, the majority of both House of Congress would be needed to approve it. In this chapter, you will learn more about Congress, our legislative branch. The structure of Congress. The Constitution created Congress, the branch to make all legislative powers shall be vested in Congress of the United States. And that's from the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 1. So in the Constitution, which is the rule book for our government, Article 1, so the first article, in the first section, it says the powers for the legislative branch. Article 1, the legislative branch. The new Congress consisted of 2 separate houses or chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Underline or highlight that sentence. Because it has 2 chambers, Congress is often described as bicameral, which means 2-chambered. Underline or highlight bicameral, 2-chambered. Like a bicycle has 2 tires, bicameral has 2 chambers, which means the 2 parts. Like we have the House of Representatives and the Senate. It's 2 separate chambers. At the bottom of the page, the powers of Congress. The Constitution gave Congress both legislative, which means lawmaking, underline or highlight that sentence, legislative lawmaking, and non-legislative powers. The enumerated powers. The specific powers of Congress are listed in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. Underline or highlight that sentence. These are sometimes known as delegated or enumerated powers. Underline or highlighted delegated, enumerated powers. So the powers that are listed specifically, so this says this, and this, that list, those are the delegated or enumerated powers. The first one is the power to tax and to spend. Congress has the power to lay or raise and collect taxes. So they have the power to collect taxes from the people, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. So they have the ability to raise money to take care of the United States, to keep it safe, and to take care of the welfare of the people inside. Congress thus has the power to raise money through taxes and to spend it for the defense and public welfare. Underline or highlight that sentence. This is sometimes referred to as taxing power or the power of the purse. Originally, Congress' power to tax was limited to the duties on imports and to excise tax on the sale of particular goods. Such taxes had to be uniform throughout the United States. The 16th Amendment, passed in 1913, then gave Congress the power to tax individual and corporate incomes. Since that time, income tax have become the government's chief source of revenue. In your guided notes, you should now look at questions 1, 2, and 3 and be able to answer them based on the reading we just went over. Question 1 is, what is the Congress and how is it set up? So make sure you say, what is Congress, like what is their job, and how is our United States Congress set up? Question 2, what are the enumerated powers? So explain what the enumerated powers are. Remember, I would look at the highlighted material. And number 3, explain the enumerated powers. So at the bottom of the page, you saw that it's listed the first one. So the first one is the power to tax and spend. So on your guided notes, explain what the power to tax and spend means. Then, if you look on page 88 in the text, I will read over them and you continue on explaining each one of these enumerated powers. The top of page 88. Enumerated power number 2, the power to borrow money. Congress is able to borrow money. It usually does so by issuing government bonds. These bonds entitle their owners to interest payments. Government bonds also have dates of maturity when they can be turned in for cash. Number 3, the power to regulate interstate commerce. Under the Articles of Confederation, economic rivalries between states had grown intense. They were restricting the free flow of goods across state lines. The Confederation Congress had no power to remedy this situation. The Constitution gave the new Congress the power to regulate commerce with other nations, among the states, and with Indian tribes. Now, commerce is the buying, selling, and trading of goods and services. Underline or highlight that sentence. So anytime you're buying, selling, or trading anything, it's commerce. Commerce between parties in different states of the United States or with foreign nations is known as interstate commerce. Underline or highlight that sentence. So anytime you are trading, buying, or selling anything with someone in another state or another country, it's interstate commerce. Congress thus has the power to regulate interstate commerce. This is one of the most important powers of the federal government. Number 4, the power to regulate naturalization, which is granting immigrants citizenship. The Constitution gave the Congress the power to make laws regulating how immigrants can become citizens. These powers are held by the federal government alone and are not shared with the states. Number 6, the power to establish standard weights, coin money, and punish counterfeiters. Congress was given the power to coin money, which means to make money. So underline or highlight the word power to coin money, and next to it, in the margin, write make money, and to fix the standard of weights and measures. This provision empowered Congress to establish a common currency, which currency is money. Underline or highlight the word currency, and then next to it in the text, write money, ending the confusion that had existed when each state had issued its own money. Congress was also given the power to punish counterfeiting, making false money, which became a federal crime. Number 7, the power to establish post office. Communication by mail was essential in the days before the telegraph, telephone, radio, and internet. The Second Continental Congress had appointed Benjamin Franklin as Postmaster General as early as 1775. The Articles of Confederation had given the Confederation Congress the sole and exclusive right and power of establishing or regulating post offices from one state to another throughout all the United States. The Constitution followed this example and gave Congress the power to establish post office and post roads so that mail might be delivered. Congress continued to regulate the U.S. Postal Service today, while tampering with mail is a federal crime. Number 8, the power to establish patents and copyrights. Copyrights provide authors with an exclusive right to their writings for a limited period of time. Patents give inventors similar exclusive rights to use lease, or sell inventions for a limited period of time. Underline or highlight from the top of that paragraph down to that sentence. So copyrights give you an exclusive right. So you come up with an idea and you copyright it. It gives you, the rights to that idea so other people can't steal it. Same with patents. For when you invent something, you come up with a patent so someone else can't just take your idea and make money off of it. So the power to establish those was done through the legislative branch and the Congress. These exclusive rights provide incentives to authors and inventors to develop new products and to share the fruits of their labors. Congress has the power to regulate both patents and copyrights. Number 9. The power to declare war. Only Congress can declare war. Underline or highlight that sentence. Although this power belongs solely to Congress, the President is able to send troops overseas as Commander-in-Chief. To prevent the President from sending troops overseas for long periods of time without any declaration of war or approval of Congress, Congress passed the War Powers Act in 1973. According to this law, the President can send troops overseas in an emergency for 60 days, but must withdraw them if the approval of Congress is not obtained within that time period. And number 10, the power to establish a system of lower federal courts. The delegates to the Constitutional Convention could not agree whether or not to create additional federal courts below the U.S. Supreme Court. As a compromise, it left the future Congress to decide. Congress was given the power to create such lower courts, but was not required to exercise this right. When it met, the very first Congress decided to create an inferior federal courts in the Judiciary Act of 1789. You will learn more about these courts in Chapter 7. Congress also has the power to determine what kinds of matters these courts can hear. Number 11 is the power to raise and support armies, which means the power to build an army and to pay for it. And number 12, the power to maintain a navy. The implied powers, the elastic clause. In addition to the enumerated powers, Congress also has implied powers. These are powers that are not directly stated in the Constitution, but that are implied, which means strongly suggested by its other provisions. Underline or highlight from the word implied powers all the way through the next sentence. These are the powers that are not directly stated in the Constitution, but that are implied by its other provisions. So the other powers besides the enumerated powers, are implied powers. The basis for the implied powers is the necessary and proper clause, found at the end of Article 1, Section 8. This clause gives Congress the power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States. So underline or highlight necessary and proper clause, found at the end of Article 1, Section 8. Put a big star next to that in the margin. And then also take an arrow and point it at the actual excerpt of the necessary and proper clause below, which says what the necessary and proper clause is. The meaning of necessary and proper is not entirely clear. This clause can be interpreted narrowly or broadly. Does an action have to be absolutely necessary for it to be implied power of Congress? Alexander Hamilton argued the necessary and proper clause gave Congress the power to charter the first national bank because having the bank would help Congress in carrying out its enumerated powers. Others felt that the creation of such a bank, while helpful, was not absolutely necessary. They concluded that Congress had no power to create it. The interpretation of the necessary and proper clause was the subject of a case of McCulloch v. Maryland, decided in 1819. One of the questions before the U.S. Supreme Court was whether the Congress had the power to establish a second national bank. The chartering of such national bank was not one of the enumerated powers of Congress. After the last reading, you should now be able to answer guided note question 4. What are the implied powers? Then, make sure you defined all the words on the left-hand column on your Cornell notes and answer the questions at the bottom of the page. After you've completed this, you've completed video 1 for the Chapter 5 in your Gateways textbook.